So, how many of you find it appealing to be offered the opportunity to be yoked? All right? There's good news and bad news about this scripture. The good news is that, one, it's an image that we know, and there are parts of that image that are positive for us. The rabbis often spoke of being under the yoke of the law or the yoke of the commandments, but they always spoke of that with praise and thanksgiving. It's a good thing to be yoked with God. When Jesus talked about a yoke, he talked about it in terms of justice, mercy, love, and commitment. There's a sense of security and rightness about being yoked to the right one. There's a double-sidedness to this image. One is that there's great comfort. Come unto me, all ye who are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. I love that verse. I love that verse. Every time I think of it, I just think how lucky we're cared for by God. Yet, it also requires us to give up control. Right? If you're yoked to someone or something, you lose your power to choose the direction and the speed. So there's a double-sidedness to it. Now, leading up to this passage in the Gospel, Jesus is talking to his disciples, and he sends them out, and he tells them, these are the things I want you to do. And as part of that, he says, you need to take up the cross that is yours. The cross that is yours. And I thought about that. The cross is kind of an image of a yoke. We take it up, and we follow. Someone once asked, how can Jesus offer rest when he asks so much? After all, a yoke is still a yoke, and a burden is still a burden. But I don't want you to be misled when Jesus says, my yoke is easy. That's not really what the Greek says. It doesn't say it's easy. It says, my yoke is well-fitting. It's well-fitting. So it doesn't chafe you. It's made especially for you. When Jesus invites us to wear his yoke, it is a yoke made just for us. It doesn't rub us the wrong way or cause us to develop sore spots in our spirit. And it's designed for two. Jesus' yoke is always designed for two. And Jesus is always there for us. So there's some things about yokes. Yokes were always custom fitted. One size does not fit all. In your journey of faith, know that? One size does not fit all. Yokes do not remove the load. They distribute the load to make it easier. Yoke mates must pull together as a team. Yoke mates are no longer free to do as they please. That's how it is. And so Jesus is offering us a yoke. In that he is saying, let me chart the course for you. Let me set the pace. Let me determine the direction. Trust me. The yoke of Jesus transforms our life from chaos to calmness. The chaos of having to make all the decisions for ourselves, to deal with everything ourselves, to decide which way we go, now is his choice. And there's a certain calm about that. Jesus sets a steady pace. If his pace is your pace, your burden will be easy. Or at least manageable. At least manageable. If you match his pace, don't run on ahead, or lag behind, or turn in another direction. You will learn of his gentleness and humility. Because he gives himself for you. He doesn't say, put on this yoke and carry this burden. He says, let's do this together. One part of this image that may get lost is the truth that Jesus is always with us. Jesus says this over and over in the Gospels, in his life, in his teachings. He says it in many ways. He's always with us. As we take on the yoke, he is with us. You're not only yoked to him, but he is yoked to you. This is a central message for Jesus. Remember, a little later on in the Gospels, he says, wherever 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, what? There I am with you. And toward the end of his life, he said, I go and prepare a place for you so that you can come and be with me. That sense of presence sits in this image of the yoke. Now, here's the thing about us as a community of faith, and all communities of faith, and that is, Jesus not only yokes himself to you, he puts you in a community of the yoked. We are in this together. Alice, in going to see her, delighted in recounting the people that came to see her. She was so thrilled that people cared enough to come and see her. We are yoked together. We support each other. Where there are joys for us, we share those together. Where there are difficulties, we share those together. Now, we all have needs. We all have burdens. We are all weighted down in some way in our lives. We know this, right? Sometimes they're at the surface, sometimes they're deep. There's a mother who was playing cops and robbers with her young boys, and they were out in the backyard, and one of the boys pointed a toy gun at her and said, "Bang, you're dead." And very dramatically, she fell to the ground, and she lay there. She didn't get up. Her neighbor had noticed what was going on and got worried, and she ran over and said, "Are you all right, all right?" The lady opened one eye and said, "Shh, this is the only time I get to rest." Right? We all know that feeling. We all know that feeling. Doesn't matter who you are, there is a weary place in your life, somewhere in your soul. Jesus wants to join you in carrying that burden. Conan O'Brien, who has a late-night talk show, on the first show after the 9/11 tragedy, had this to say: "I don't know how exactly we're going to do this, but we're going to try." And he added, "Today I did something I haven't done in years. I went across the street to St. Patrick's Cathedral, where I sat in silence and prayed. I needed someone. I needed something to help me." Conan remembered the comfort of the yoke that he knew had left behind. There's comfort. In 1863, Abraham Lincoln was traveling with a friend, Noah Brooks, and Noah noted how exhausted the president was. Middle of the Civil War, no end in sight. So he suggested that when they get back to the White House, that Lincoln take a rest. And Lincoln said, "A rest? I don't know about a rest. I suppose it's good for the body, but the tired part of me is inside and out of reach." The yoke takes that burden with us. Some of you know those tired parts today. The strength of God can reach where nothing else can reach. And that strength watches over us because God cares. There's a construction crew that was building a road, and they were taking down all the trees that were in the path. And the supervisor noticed that up in one of the trees there was a bird's nest with little fledglings who hadn't learned to fly yet. So he tagged the tree not to be cut down. He came back a couple weeks later and was lifted up in one of those picks and noticed that the fledglings were gone. They learned how to fly, and now they were free. And so he ordered for the tree to be cut down, and as it was cut down, the nest flew free of the tree and began to shatter in pieces, and there were little pieces of paper and twigs and things. And one of the little pieces of paper that was used to make that nest was from a Sunday school pamphlet that said, "He cares for you." He cares for you. So the robin to the sparrow, "Friend, I'd really like to know why these anxious human beings rush about and worry so." So the sparrow to the robin, "Friend, I guess that it must be that they have no heavenly Father, such as cares for you and me." We so easily forget God watches out for us. We can trust a God to bring rest to our souls. Richard Fairchild noted that if you go over many large mountain passes, on top you'll find a restaurant or a place to rest. And he pointed out that the reason for that in so many places was because in the older days, by the time your car got up to the top of the hill, your radiator was overheating. So you had a place to stop and let your radiator cool down. That's kind of what Jesus is offering to us, a place to rest. Now, whenever I go over to Santa Cruz, you may have done that 17. I don't know if it's 17 anymore, but it's always 17 to me. I notice those restaurants on both sides, and it's a wonderful view. Right? But I wonder how they stay in business. Because every time I go over there, I'm in a hurry. I don't want to stop. I either want to get to the beach or I want to get home from the beach. That's how it is in our busy lives sometimes. We are so busy, we forget to stop. We forget the presence of God, the calmness that is there for us. Ann Weems was the wife of a Presbyterian minister and has written many books, great writer. Her son Todd was brutally murdered after his 21st birthday. So how is a mother to deal with this kind of devastating loss? Well, she said friends tried to console her and help her and be there for her. And one of those was a seminary professor who called her attention to all of the places in the Bible where it talks about the laments, saying things that were exactly what she was feeling. Then he, remembering that she was a great writer, suggested that she put down her feelings on paper, and so she did. And it turned out to be a book called Psalm of Lament. When the book was done, she wrote in the preface about a God who brings rest and offers new hope. She wrote, "In the God-forsaken, obscene quicksand of life, there's a deafening alleluia, rising from the souls of those who weep, and of those who weep with those who weep. If you watch, you will see the hand of God putting the stars back in the skies, one by one." Now, there's one more part of this image that should be obvious, and that is you must choose to be yoked. It's your call. It's your call. Malcolm Mutteridge had met Mother Teresa in Calcutta, and he shared some experiences in his life and his experiences with her. And on one experience that he had, as his driver was driving through the streets, accidentally hit a man. So his driver stopped and picked up the man, put him in the back seat, and they drove him quickly to the emergency room. When they got to the emergency room, the man turned out to be okay, so that was good. But the emergency room was crowded and filthy and smelly, and he just could not deal with it, and so he ran away as quickly as he could from that emergency room. And then he had this to say. He said, "I ran away and stayed away. Mother Teresa moved in and stayed. That was the difference." It's a choice. It's a choice. And not everything is for everyone. It's because it's a yoke, right? It's one sometimes we just like to avoid. There's a company that markets getting a powerful vocabulary without studying. Right? I'd pay for that. Or learning a foreign language while you sleep. You seen any of those? Well, there's a New York publishing company that has a cassette tape that's entitled, it's not even a book, it's a cassette tape. It's entitled 10 Classics in 10 Minutes. Can you imagine? You can cover Moby Dick in 1 minute. Wow, that's pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive. We have to choose, and sometimes it seems like it would just be easier not to. A man went into Saks Fifth Avenue, was looking for some pajamas, and he found something he liked, but he noticed there was a label on them that said, "shrink resistant." He thought, well, what's that mean? And so he called the sales lady over and he says, "Look, this says shrink resistance. Does it shrink or not?" She said, "Well, it means it will shrink, but it doesn't want to." That's often how we approach this yoke thing. Jesus calls us to rest, to set aside our false yokes, only to put on another. Back, a ways back, Bob Dylan wrote a song that said, "You gotta love somebody You got to love one thing or the other. But you're always at one thing or another. There's always a yoke. If you're not yoked to Christ, you're yoked to something else, whether you realize it or not. Jesus calls us to rest, to set aside our false yokes. Richard Foster, in a book of his, writes about yoke living. He writes these things. Buy things for their usefulness rather than their status. All my genes are Levi. Reject anything that is producing an addiction in you. Develop a habit of giving things away. Refuse to be propagandized by the custodians of modern gadgetry. Everybody with an iPhone, look that up right now. Okay. I got one of those too. What can I say? Learn to enjoy things without owning them. Develop a deeper appreciation for the creation. Look with a healthy skepticism at all buy now, pay later schemes. I told us the first verse. Sometimes I have to watch what Lori watches because she's got the remote. You know how that goes. You know how that goes. So this last week, we were watching Antique Roadshow. And there was this strange-looking instrument. It was sort of the size of a violin. And it had strings down like a violin would. And it also had another set of strings that went this way. And it was a really strange-looking thing. And I'd never seen one before. And I thought, man, this has got to be worth a lot. And so the guy who was appraising it said, you know, these are everywhere. These are everywhere. And he said, the story on these is people would go to door to door selling these. And they would give the spiel, you know, wouldn't your home be so much better if you had music in it? It'd be so much more joyful. And then they got to the price, and it's $35, which is a lot of money. And so at that point, they wouldn't sell any. But then they would say, but you can have it for $1. And just pay me $1 each month until it's paid off. Well, these things were impossible to play. Who could figure it out? And so after a couple of payments, people just stopped paying. They got sucked in to this buy now, pay later. Okay, back to it. Obey Jesus' instruction about plain, honest speech. Reject anything that will breed the oppression of others. Shun whatever would distract you from your main goal. Seek ye first the kingdom of God. Jesus invites us, are you ready, Sammy? He invites us to take on our yoke. Let's listen.